joining us for a discussion on RBL Bank's financial results for the fourth quarter of and full year FY21. I hope you and your families are safe. Very trying. I want to definitely start by saying that. I also want to apologize for the delayed start to this, call, and also for what might come a little longish presentation this time. I am of course joined on this call by my other colleagues on the management team, who along with me will address any questions that you may all have. So at the very outset, I wish to place on record our extreme gratitude and appreciation to all our employees who have shown exemplary courage and commitment at a great personal health risk to continue to serve our customers in a seamless manner. Our primary focus has been and will be to take care of the health and safety of our employees, and the second wave has been a grave concern to me. In spite of our efforts, we've lost a few of our dear colleagues to the pandemic, especially in the last few weeks. I wish to offer my deepest condolences and support to the families in this time of need. For RBL Bank, FY21 has been the year of building resilience and strengthening the franchise across several fronts. And in terms of focus, these include granularizing both sides of the balance sheet and tightening risk filters, prudent, accelerated and additional provisioning leading to significant improvement in the PCR, reducing corporate exposures, significantly improving the asset quality and rating profile of the wholesale balance sheet in order to reposition the business for growth, rapid ramp up of our retail deposits CASA base, significantly raising capital buffers, driving other income, particularly core fees, ensuring consistent increase in pre-provision operating profit, and therefore maintaining the earnings momentum and net income at even slightly better than previous year levels despite the impact of COVID. And of course, significant reduction in cost of funds to enhance competitiveness in lending and to facilitate the build-out of some new secured loan products. Several risk mitigation measures in each of the bank's portfolios to business segments have been undertaken in FY21, and our business plan going forward entails further tightening of risk, portfolio diversity, and ensuring healthy collections as important parameters of the bank strategy. We are confident of managing the future asset quality outcomes at prudential levels. We feel we are well positioned for decent growth in FY22 and beyond. Let me talk about asset quality, NPAs and provisioning to start with. Having recognized and adequately provided for the stress emanating from the identified pool of corporate accounts in FY20, our slippages during 21 were primarily almost 80% in retail, owing to the impact of the COVID pandemic. This has translated into a gross and net NPA position as of March 21 of 4.34% and 2.12% net, as against our pro forma numbers of 4.57% and 2.52% as of December 2020. So in other words, the fourth quarter we have seen improvement in asset quality. The bank has maintained the net NPA ratio as of March 21 at broadly similar levels to March 20, despite the pandemic resulting in above-trend slippages in the retail segment in FY21, which is around a little over 2% number, 2.1%. PCR, including technical write-offs, improved to 72.2% from 64% in March 20, and excluding write-offs, it is improved to 52.3% from 44% in March 20, representing an increase in PCR by approximately 800 basis points. Our plan in FY22 seeks to further improve the prudential ratios, including PCR, to well beyond 80%, including write-offs, and over 60% excluding write-offs respectively. Our total credit costs for the year were 2,230 crores, about 410 basis points. This includes 70 crores towards additional accelerated provisioning on our unsecured retail businesses ex cards. In addition, we've also provided for interest on interest as per the Supreme Court order. Our wholesale advances GNPA and net NPA was 1,100 crores and 545 crores respectively. The composition of the wholesale book has been strengthened with negligible exposure to vulnerable stressed sectors. While the bank's recovery efforts relating to the previously identified stress pool of select corporate accounts were affected during FY21 due to the COVID restrictions, we are now starting to see traction from these and other accounts and are hopeful of seeing reasonable recoveries in the coming quarters. Of our net NPAs in the wholesale of approximately 545 crores, around 100 crores is from the retail group and 200 crores from the coffee group, where we expect transactions to happen in the near future. And so don't see downside on our wholesale book as a whole, except for the BAU stuff. The target operating model in wholesale, which we had implemented in July 19, has worked well for us. We have improved granularity in our exposures, while at the same time, we have also materially improved the rating profile of the book. Our A- and above book is now 77.6%, up from 72.8% a year ago and 67% in March 19. We have rationalized our exposures in the BBB and below rated exposures also. Incremental lending over the last 18 months or so has been largely to A and better and is reflected therefore in the overall rating mix. Hence, we can comfortably say that the wholesale segment is now right-sized, de-risked and adequately provisioned. I would now like to elaborate on our three large segments in the retail space. During FY21, the bank interest build-up in the retail segments, including the unsecured segments of credit cards and microbanking, and also in the MSME. In each of these segments, the bank has followed a conservative policy of accelerated provisioning for all the unsecured retail loans. For instance, in cards, the bank provides for 100% provisioning and fully writes off at 180. In microbanking, we have decided to take, normally we do it over 4 quarters as per our provisioning policy, but in Q4 FY21, we have taken an additional 25% provisioning to make it 50% provisioning on slippages. This is in addition to the fact that approximately 45% of our microbanking book is covered by FLDG, which provides further risk mitigation. In the remaining retail unsecured book, also, we have taken 50% provisioning on slippages in Q4 as against the usual 25%. As can be seen in our largest retail business segments, cards and microbanking, we do follow a conservative provisioning policy. Further, while both the businesses did suffer from higher than normal slippages due to the pandemic, akin to what we would call a major stress scenario, the businesses were still profitable at the segment level despite the accelerated provisioning policy. And this is a very important point to consider from a business model perspective and the related perception of risk. And also that therefore, we have sufficient earnings power to manage and grow a high-risk retail portfolio such as cards and MFI. Further, credit cost in our credit card business, we have been within our expectations and we believe that these credit costs will normalize to pre-pandemic levels from the second half of FY22. On business loans, we follow IRAC norms on provisioning. Our LTVs, as we have reported earlier, are approximately 65% on the affected portfolio, and there is enough value in the collateral to ensure minimal expected loss in this portfolio. Given the accelerated provisioning done on the unsecured loan, plus the additional prudential provisioning taken, together with the recoveries expected in the secured MSME loan segments, the bank expects to see a further increase in the PCR in the coming year. As I've indicated, it could be an additional, 8 to 10% for the year. On restructuring and ECLGS, our total restructuring was 927 crores, little under 1.6% of advances, well within our expectation. Of this, the wholesale was 347 crores and retail was 580 crores. We have taken requisite provisioning on the same. On ECLGS, we have very prudently extended the scheme to our customers, aggregating to a value of 1,212 crores to help them tide over the short-term stress. Of this, 680 crores was in wholesale and 530 crores was in retail. Let's talk about the operating performance. First, about fee income. Fee income grew 8% year-on-year to 2,058 crores. Similarly, our core fee income, despite the shutdown in the country during the first half of the fiscal, was higher year-on-year. This was despite the impact of core fee income reversals of approximately 144 crores in FY21. For Q4 2021, core fee income grew 40% year-on-year and 33% quarter-on-quarter to 660 crores, higher than the pre-COVID levels. Our granular retail businesses, led by credit cards, accounted for 80% of the core fee income. This percentage was 77% in Q4 FY21. Credit card fees grew 25% year-on-year and general banking income grew 30% year-on-year in Q4 21. Given the bounce back we have seen in cards, together with the expansion of our branch footprint, we remain confident of expansion of core fee income in FY22. Coming to net interest margins for Q4 21, it was 4.17%, flat sequentially, and 4.48% average for the full year FY21. NIMs for the full year were impacted because of the interest reversals to the tune of approximately 50 basis points, as well as the excess liquidity the bank has been carrying on its balance sheet. We expect NIMs in FY22 to normalize to the 4.75% plus levels. We have seen sustained improvement in PPOP, the pre-provision operating profit, throughout the year, from 690 crores in Q1 to 720 crores in Q2 to 807 crores in Q3 and to 877 crores in Q4. For this fourth quarter, the PPOP was up 17% year-on-year and 9% sequentially. In terms of our deposit franchise, our key objective has been to keep increasing the contribution of retail deposits, improve our CASA, maintain healthy levels of liquidity, and increase the tenor of our liabilities, and at the same time reduce cost of funds. I'm happy to report that there has been substantial progress on all fronts. Total deposits grew 26% year-on-year and 9% sequentially to 73,121 crores. The proportion of retail deposits as per the LCR definition in the bank deposits has grown 32.9% as at March 20, from 32.9% as of March 2020 to 37.2% as of March 2021 on a growing deposit base. On an incremental basis, retail LCR deposit constituted 54% of our total deposits raised in FY21. The daily average LCR for the bank has consistently been well above regulatory requirements, averaging 154% for Q4 21. In line with the peers, we've also reduced rates on savings and term deposits since March 2020. As a result of this, an improving CASA position, the cost of deposits for the bank has reduced from 6.4% in Q4 FY20 to 5.45% in Q4 FY21. We expect continued moderate reduction during FY22 also. CASA deposits growth was strong at 36% year-on-year and 11% sequentially. CASA percentage was at 31.8% in Q4 21 as against 29.6% same time last year. We also calibrated advances growth given the general environment, which has also helped to materially improve the credit deposit ratio. So to sum up, we have seen very robust growth into granular deposits, and we expect this trend to continue going forward, even as we continue to add to our distribution, both physical and digital. Having said so, let me talk about driving digital banking solutions. In FY21, the bank's focus on digital payments was to build stickier client engagement and transactions and float revenues. Some of the achievements in this space in FY21 are as follows. Onboarded 190 wholesale banking clients in the last 1 year, contributing to current account balance. The bank's AEPS service is ranked 5th in terms of transactions processed in the country. We process around 30 lakh transactions per month. The bank has achieved over 25% market share of disbursements in the MFI payments segment. The bank has launched Rupee Drawing Arrangements RDA recently, which is averaging 15,000 transactions per day. During the year FY21, API hits increased from 30,000 API transactions to 5 lakh API transactions per day. The bank also recently launched e-mandate services as a sponsor bank and currently processes around 10 lakh mandates per month. In our branch banking business, we have been building digital acquisition processes for the past 3.5 years, with 40 to 45% of our monthly sourcing of savings account is now. Balances of digital accounts have grown 4x over the last 4 quarters, backed by strong hybrid onboarding and engagement strategy of voice plus digital. Over 40% active customers have more than 3 products enabled by digital journeys. So we believe this has been a phenomenal, performance for the bank. In terms of some other performance metrics, as far as advances are concerned, it grew 4% sequentially and 1% year-on-year. Retail advances grew 13% year-on-year and 4% sequentially, whereas wholesale advances grew 3% sequentially. Of course, wholesale was down for the year. Retail wholesale advances mix stood at approximately 59-41. Overall, year-on-year total revenue growth was 5%, NII was flat, and other income was up 38%. PAT for the quarter was 75 crores, down because of the accelerated additional provisioning that we said we have taken, and also on the Supreme Court mandated reversals. For the full year, PAT was 508 crores, just about the same level as last year. Our capital adequacy ratio as at March 31st, 21 was at 17.5% with a CET1 of 16.6%. Excuse me. To sum up, the pandemic has been worse than what we had expected at this time last year. But our balance sheet fortification through de-risking both sides of the balance sheet as well as adding to capital buffers makes us well placed to take the franchise forward. While we are closely watching for the impact of the second wave and are prepared to handle
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay online while we try to redial the management. Requesting all participants to please stay connected. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for patiently holding the line. We have the management reconnected. Over to you, sir. You may please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about this interruption. So I was saying, to sum up, the pandemic has been worse than what we'd expected at the beginning of this, FY21. But our balance sheet fortification through de-risking both sides, as well as adding capital buffers and keeping our revenue engines going, makes us well placed to take the franchise forward. While we are closely watching the impact of the second wave and are prepared to handle any short-term disruptions, our business engines are in good shape and have been further tightened to be in a far better position to tackle the impact of a second wave and any potential partial lockdowns. I do want to take this opportunity to talk about scaling up of our domain expertise to gain market share and a little bit about our new sort of business products. While remaining watchful, conservative and agile, the focus going forward would also be to scale up in segments where we have domain expertise and critical mass, which is of course cards and MFI, and to also invest in new secured growth engines, i.e. housing finance, tractor, two-wheeler, gold, and continue to sustain granularity across businesses and maintain the deposit traction. So essentially, that is the so-called, if I may say, the growth direction and focus for the institution going forward. We are gradually accelerating our retail businesses with a stronger focus on secure retail businesses, while at the same time maintaining our market share in credit cards and microfinance, where we have built industry-leading franchises. In affordable housing, for instance, we have 66 branches currently, and in the current fiscal year, the plan is to add another 75 branches. Just to give you some more information, we ended the year with 1,669 crores of home loans through both self-origination and selected portfolio purchases. This will continue. In the semi-urban markets where we run our micro SME businesses, the incremental focus will be on the secured loans of ticket sizes in the 10 to 25 lakh range. We have moved away in this segment from unsecured loans. In rural markets, we are taking initial steps to build a tractor finance book. This will see greater traction in the coming years. In our micro banking business, we are introducing secured products such as loan against gold, home improvement, and two-wheeler loans as cross-sell products to our large customer base. We will continue to invest in credit cards franchise through better cross-sell and customer value proposition and are prepared to take advantage of the current market opportunities. Cards is now seeing decent growth traction as the situation on the ground has improved. The business has been profitable in FY21, and as the economy normalizes, the bounce back in these businesses tends to happen faster, therefore providing good growth and ROA impetus. Cross-sell will be a key focus, both from branches originating more asset products as well as mainstreaming asset customers across MSMEs and credit cards through further cross-sell. In micro-banking, outside of the 3-4 impacted states, the businesses on the ground are doing well with overall collection efficiencies at 95% and 97%. New originations with tight filters is now approximately half our book, and collection efficiencies are at pre-COVID levels, i.e., exceeding 99%. In our wholesale business, we will selectively look at opportunities in segments like multinationals, customers, NBFCs, including HFCs and IFIs, which have seen decent growth and where asset quality has held stable with no material delays or defaults. We will also look to grow the commercial banking franchise with a focus on multiple bank products. In terms of other opportunities in wholesale, while overall corporate demand has been muted as companies increasingly deleverage, we have been looking at making inroads through digital solutions, foreign exchange, trade and cash management, and deposits, etc. In fact, our trade and FX momentum in Q4 21 and even in April is now at pre-COVID levels. Tactically, given the surpluses we are running, we have also been deploying this for short-term opportunities with the highly rated corporate names. As credit growth happens, some of this low pricing is expected to normalize. In digital banking, we hope to continue to maintain the lead in digital banking innovations for both enterprise and retail customers, driven by innovative product offerings with fintechs for retail and business customers. And lastly, we continue to significantly increase digitization in operations and technology for a robust backbone infrastructure. Now to talk very briefly on our distribution, we ended the quarter with 429 bank branches, up from 386 in the previous quarter, 1,365 BC branches, up from 1,245 in the previous quarter, and 412 ATMs, up from 389 in the previous quarter. The focus on expanding the distribution franchise will continue as one of the key channels to add relevant customer base to the bank's growing franchise. At this stage, before I come back and talk to you some more, I will hand over to Harjeet to take you through some details on the retail businesses, which I'm sure you're eager to know about.
Thank you, sir, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The year FY21 has been an unprecedented year on many fronts. The ever-evolving situation around the pandemic and lockdowns, scale of disruption in the economy, and the challenges in navigating business operations through this situation. As we entered into the lockdown towards the end of March 20, we started our scenario planning exercise in terms of what to expect and thereby a business forecast. But I would be the first to admit that we didn't expect a lot of things that unfolded in the subsequent 6 to 9 months. The prolonged lockdown and subsequently the unlock phase and the associated restrictions for over 9 months. Extent of disruptions to the small business segment. The 2 moratoriums, restructuring, and the Supreme Court standstill. The quick bounce back in terms of pent-up demand. And now, unfortunately, the raging second wave and restart of partial and intermittent lockdowns. However, despite all of this, we still managed more or less to deliver on our forecast and guidance in terms of GNPA and credit costs. This was largely due to the agility in the business processes to adapt to evolving situations and thereby implement portfolio actions, customer communication, and collection strategies. Also, during this period, conscious effort was made to ensure that business and portfolios became stronger and resilient. Some of the changes made were structural in nature and will help in navigating such challenges in the future. Some of these are enumerated below. Significant migration of business processes to digital, thereby reducing or eliminating the need to physically meet the customer. This is across new customer origination, customer engagement and service, collections, and also internal team management. Ability to quickly scale up business origination run rates the moment external risk environment is conducive for growth, and this despite tightening the acquisition risk filters. Ensuring existing portfolios are more resilient to future shocks. Part of this is due to accelerated flow-through to losses of weaker segments during this pandemic, but a large part is on account of the ever-growing contribution of the new business booked, which is superior in risk quality based on learning so far. The analytical risk models, forecasting models, etc. today are much richer, factoring in the actual performances seen during the stress period. Ability to run collection operations digitally. bringing down cost run rate quite appreciably in FY21. Not only because majority of the costs were variable, but also a lot of reimagining of cost structures through zero-based budgeting and altogether eliminating some costs. So for example, today in our cards business, we are acquiring customers at pre-COVID run rates with much tighter acquisition filters. Our salaried contribution and geographical distribution in new acquisition is more than the portfolio average. We've also brought down our risk appetite measured through leading indicators like the 6 MOB 30 plus from 3.5% to 3%, and accordingly risk scorecards have been adjusted. Spends are higher than pre-COVID level run rate. March 21 versus March 20 is higher by 28%. Spends per active cards are also up by 8%. We have seen customers remain engaged throughout this tough time, while changing their proportion amongst category of spends as per their needs. Overall, we have gained market share in spends by 30 basis points year on year and are at 4.7% and have clocked slightly higher spends in FY21 over FY20 despite the lockdown. We now have a better understanding of how different risk segments perform through extreme stress, and hence these learnings are built into our risk models guiding portfolio build-up. Our limit assignment and management strategy is far more prudent than the industry and is seen in our lower dollar loss rates for the same number loss rates. That is, our loss rates by value versus loss rates by number of customers is around 16% lower than the industry. Details on our limit allocation are shared in the investor deck. Therefore, despite apprehensions that a card portfolio was not seasoned enough or did not have enough contribution of internal bank customers, the portfolio has performed equal to or better than the industry throughout this extreme stress phase. Similarly, in microbanking, in the last 1 year, we've been able to evolve processes enabling us to seamlessly manage branch operations and customer engagement across 1,200 plus across 15 districts. We've been able to significantly strengthen the collection operations, especially the ability to collect in the absence of center meetings. We've been able to engage with the 3.3 million customer base every month consistently on phone through our loan officers. This has enabled them to collect through center leaders or individually from customers whenever center meetings have not been possible due to COVID restrictions. Our onboarding and other branch operations have now completely moved to digital, and customer identification is through biometric Aadhaar, thus reducing instances of fraud, ringleaders, etc. So all in all, while we have seen increased stress, especially in a few impacted states, our microfinance portfolio has performed much better than the market. Our 90 plus DPD portfolio as of Feb was at 2.5% as compared to 5.35% for the market as published by the credit bureaus. Therefore, to sum up, we have been able to fortify our businesses during the last 1 year, and they are far more resilient to navigate the second COVID wave and subsequently quickly ramp up as and when the opportunity presents. I would now like to talk about the performance of our businesses in Q4 FY21 and some of the trends we are seeing. Let me start with credit cards. We issued 3.82 lakh new cards in Q4 versus 3.5 lakhs in the previous quarter. Overall in the year, the new card issuance was at 9.8 lakhs versus 14.5 lakhs in FY20. Market share in terms of cards in force was at 4.7%, up 10 basis points year on year. Spends continue to be strong and were at 9,170 crores in Q4, up 6% quarter on quarter and 10% year on year. For the full year, spends were at 29,500 crores, slightly higher than FY20. Per card spends and active rates further improved over Q3 FY21. We have a restructured book of only around 274 crores, which is 2.2% of our cards book as at March end. Of this, rupees 50 crores, which is 0.4% of the book, is in the 30 to 90 DPD bracket. GNPA as at Q4 end was at 5.5%. Credit cost was at 10.4% for the full year versus 7.6% for the 9 months FY21 and is in line with our estimate at the beginning of the year. We also think customers start paying back their dues even after they've been classified as an NPA, post the vacation of the Supreme Court of interim order. Of the total GNPA of 5.5%, 1.3% of customers have been paying one or more dues. So the 90 plus DPD is at 4.2% versus GNPA of 5.5%. However, we continue to carry NPA provisions on these as well. We believe that GNPAs have peaked and will start coming down from the next quarter as we write off the impaired book. Credit costs will remain elevated for another quarter, or maybe two, depending on the impact of the currently raging pandemic, and then we will see it coming down to normal levels over the rest of the year. We today are the 5th largest card player in the industry and are confident that we would continue to grow in this business in a prudent manner and maintain or grow our market share. We continue to add more partners and channels and further develop our businesses. Technology continues to be the backbone of our success, with digital and instant customer journeys for new acquisition, plus a rich and consumer-friendly card management app, which is used by more than 2 million customers. Let me now talk about microbanking. The microbanking book saw a growth of 6% over the previous quarter and 11% year-on-year. This was despite negligible disbursements in the 4 impacted states of Assam, West Bengal, Maharashtra, and Punjab. The collection efficiency improved further and was around 97% on an average for Q4 FY21. The new portfolio, which is around half of the total book, continues to perform at over 99.5% collection efficiency levels. We are still being watchful in the 4 impacted states and will look for clear signs of improvement before we start doing incremental business there. GNPA for the quarter was 3.67% versus 2.7% in the previous quarter and came in lower than the 5.5% indicated earlier the previous quarter. Credit costs were at 2.37% versus 2.5% indicated earlier. This was largely on account of improved collection efficiency. About a third of this impaired portfolio is covered under FLDG. However, as reported last time, the phenomena of erratic payment behavior by a certain set of customers continues, with them missing 1 or 2 installments and then paying again. Therefore, they continue to remain in delinquent buckets. This, coupled with the situation in the 4 impacted states, indicates that we may see GNPA levels remain elevated in the next year. However, as compared to the industry, the 90-plus DPD numbers for the RBL Bank portfolio are at 50% levels of the industry as of Feb, as per data from the Credit Bureau. More information on this is given in our investor deck. We continue to closely work with our customers through this period and continue to lend in markets which are not impacted. Our focus in FY22 is going to be to deepen relationship with existing customer households and offering a range of products from deposits to home loans, two-wheelers, and loan against gold. Our deep branch distribution across 415 districts in the country is our strength, which we intend to leverage as we grow this rural portfolio. Now on to business loans. The small business segment continues to be impacted, though we did see business volumes start to pick up in the last 3 to 4 months. While manufacturing and trading segments were relatively quick to bounce back, the service sector recovery is slow. The advances book declined by 1% quarter-on-quarter, but grew 3% year-on-year. The collection efficiencies, however, came back to pre-COVID levels in this quarter. With the lifting of the Supreme Court stay on standstill status, we expect recoveries to improve. We also have seen the repayment stickiness, which we measure as percentage of delinquent customers who continue to remain regular after resuming to pay their dues, improve to a high of 98%, which is better than what we used to see pre-COVID. The collection efficiency on the current book is now 99.3%, which is equal to pre-COVID. The collection efficiency on the book, including the delinquent book, we are still cautious in this segment, and new disbursements are quite measured and controlled with much tighter filters. The restructured book here is 280 crores, which is about 2% of the book. And as of now, around 10 crores, which is only 7 basis points of the book, is between 30 to 89 days. Now, let me just share something on the housing segment. The advances in the housing loans were at 1,669 crores in Q4 FY21. We now have 66 branches that are operational, and we look to add another 75 in FY22. The average ticket size is around 16 lakhs. We define our target segment as between 10 lakhs to 75 lakh loan size. Approximately 79% of the portfolio is salaried. We will continue to accelerate growth in this business as we see it as a resilient secured book, and this is being built in a manner to be able to withstand economic shocks, as we have seen happen for this industry during this pandemic. Before I end, I would like to give our view on the emerging situation of the second wave of infections and the sporadic lockdowns that have been announced in the country. As of now, we believe it is difficult to give a guidance around the impact and severity of the disruption. We are adopting a wait-and-watch strategy, but at the same time, we have significantly tightened our acquisition filters further. In cards, we have cut out an incremental 20% sourcing. In microbanking, we continue to remain focused on collections and are not dispersing in the impacted states. In business loans, we have stopped all unsecured loans and are now doing very selective secured business. We have seen this year that growth can be quickly ramped up when the market becomes conducive. The collection capacities which we had built up for the higher delinquent volumes last year are still being maintained. We are quite confident of tackling any worsening situation as this time the playbook is quite well defined. However, we hope that this time the lockdowns or dent in economy will not be as severe because of the rapid push towards vaccination. I would now like to hand over back to Mr. Vishwavir Ahuja for his concluding remarks.
Thank you, Ajit. Even as one looks at the near-term challenges of managing COVID, it is very important to reflect on the learnings of the last several years, and more specifically, the changes accentuated by COVID. The financial services industry was changing anyways, but COVID has accentuated the changes both in terms of speed and scale. It is no secret that many banks that have been born in the last 10-12 years have predicated their opportunity on the large untapped market from a quality of supply perspective. The belief was that it is all right if you just build it well. We have held that belief also in large part, even as we built this franchise starting 2010 and sort of built it well, and including built new businesses in microbanking way back in 2011 and that of the cards in 2015, leveraging technology and partnerships. However, the changes in the competitive environment, enabling regulations, and that of a more empowered customer has changed this belief forever, we believe, at least in our view. Collectively, these changes are making a significant impact on the durability of the banking modes and the economics of our businesses. It is not an exaggeration to state that while from the outside the business of banking might appear the same as before, but the capabilities, choices and tactics that will give banks a leading edge will need to be different and specific to each institution. What is needed, therefore, is to look at the opportunity through different lenses, combine and recombine our resources more intelligently and with speed. It would imply that we have to strengthen some existing foundations, build newer capabilities, and de-emphasize some old approaches. Some of the foundational capabilities that we will seek to strengthen are A. Agility. The pandemic has heightened the need to rapidly realign our operations, technology, interactions with customers, etc., to meet the changed requirements and with speed. While the pandemic will certainly be behind us one day, this organizational muscle will be very important. B. Use of technology and data. In many of our businesses, we were always tech and data first, but this has now become almost a base level requirement across origination, risk, and customer engagement. C. Creating certain right to win franchises. The bank was early in microfinance and in cards, leveraging tech and partnerships, as we said before, and has been able to create scale even in a tough year. These businesses have remained ROA positive. This will be our constant endeavor. We are now leveraging our distribution in Bharat, acquired via microbanking, to enhance our product offerings such as affordable housing, tractor, secured MSME loans, and loans against gold. D. Changing the internal dynamics around client segments and how we create cross-leverage. This is perhaps our most ambitious project. We have nearly 4 million customer relationships in metro urban India, through our branch banking and card franchises, of which 60% interact with us via digital channels. And we add between 1.5 to 2 million new customers every year. We have been running an internal project, Abacus, to see how, in a modern way, we can build customer pull for broadening our relationships. Across 1 lakh customers, this has been very promising, and we now intend to give it more momentum in terms of tech, design, and branding. We will keep you updated on this over the next few quarters. E, leveraging partnerships to generate new businesses and scale. We do have a deep DNA for partnerships with startups, fintechs, and even established players. This we have demonstrated. This philosophy permeates most of our client segments. Our belief is that customers of financial services will use the bank services not just through branch and now the app, but also through our partner ecosystem. Embedding our services through these partners will allow us to expand the customer acquisition at lower cost. And now, a few risk management principles that we will adhere to. A, granularizing deposits, reduction of cost of funds. B, reasonable diversification of asset businesses across secured and unsecured, reducing concentration risk. C, maintaining strong capital position throughout. D, increasing PCR over the next years to the better industry standards. And E, improving earnings diversity and predictability. I stop here. With this, we will now take questions.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question-answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handset while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Kunal Shah from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Thanks for taking my question, and hope all safe and healthy with everyone in the bank. So, firstly, in terms of the maybe we have mentioned in terms of the strategies of say granularization as well as in terms of PCR. But do we have any buffer now currently? Have we utilized any of it in Q4? And what is the contingency or provisioning buffer that we have on the balance sheet currently?
So, Kunal, what we did was we accelerated the provisioning on unsecured retail businesses, and we've also provided for restructuring, which is yet to get implemented. So essentially, to that extent, we are not carrying anything forward in terms of expected provisioning on the current book. We are not specifically carrying anything additional in terms of COVID provisioning. What we have done is we have taken additional provisioning on our NPAs.
Sure. So broadly, if I want to understand in terms of almost 3,100 crores of GNPL, sorry for this data question, but overall in terms of additions to GNPL of 3,100 crores, how would it be across the product segments? And if I have to look at it in terms of the credit cost of 2,400, if you can just give the broader breakup, credit card, MFI, corporate and other retail.
So broadly on credit costs, Kunal, I think this data is given in the investor deck.
Very detailed data is there.
Yeah, I guess.
On slide 21 and 22. Full breakdowns are there, exactly to your question.
No, so they are largely in terms of the GNPL and the net NPL, I think.
And in the following slide, breakdown by category.
Yeah, that is of GNPL.
Yes.
Yeah, are you looking at slippages?
Yeah, I'm actually looking because there would be write-offs across the segments.
Sure. So broadly, about a little more than the third is cards. About 1,300 crore is cards. about 400 crores is 390 crores is MFI. Approximately 750 to 800 crores is retail, and wholesale is about 600 crores. That would be the broad breakup.
Okay, perfect, great. And this recoveries which were there during the quarter, in fact, quite significant recoveries as well as upgrades. No doubt it would be maybe accumulation of past 3 quarters as well in terms of the efforts. But which segments are actually leading to this?
So again, upgrades are, we had some upgrades in wholesale and retail predominantly, and some in cards. Recovery also, predominantly it's retail, secured and unsecured retail, where the recovery is highest, and to some extent MFI.
Okay. Okay, cool. And last, in terms of maybe the way you articulated the strategy, but finally, when we look at it in terms of the overall book, how do we expect it given the opportunities which could be there? How do we look at the growth? And finally, in terms of maybe any cap wherein we would have in terms of the credit card that not getting it beyond 20-25% of the portfolio, or say unsecured not going beyond a particular level of the balance sheet.
Yes, indeed. Go ahead.
No, so I think, Kunal, first of all, it's a little bit of a dynamic environment because we are again into some level of uncertainty. So essentially, we will look at where we think the risk reward is, stacking up given the environment. So there is no hard and fast rules. But having said that, I think on a 2-year basis, we will definitely want to reduce unsecured exposures in retail by predominantly sticking to unsecured between cards and MFI, de-emphasizing unsecured outside these two portfolios, and adding to secured engines like Mr. Ahuja mentioned in speech, wherein most new products in retail that we are, either scaling up or introducing is on the secured side, and also more importantly, adjacent to our current strategies, where we are able to either leverage the customer base or the distribution network or both.
Okay. Sure. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
If I may add one sentence.
Yeah.
That the proportion of unsecured will continue to go down, from so-called this moment onwards. Okay? And like you said, in a 2-year time frame, we do hope that it will go down by maybe 7 to 10% of the total book from where it is right now. Okay? So that's a broad directional endeavor of the bank in terms of how we want to build the future. Yeah? And I know it was a bit much, but something that I was trying to sort of say in terms of the forward journey of the bank,
Yeah.
The entire shift is something that we need to, bring about in terms of the new way of banking. And we see the landscape definitely changing. And we certainly want to use, our agility, our tech and digital strengths, and also the way we look at fintech and other partnerships, like we said, to make sure that the future journey is more about how you serve the customer, rather than in very traditional terms of building balance sheets, etc., etc. So, I mean, that's the outlook. So all of this that you are asking will be very, if I may say, automatic if we are able to successfully implement our new vision. We actually hope this actually second wave surge has come. Otherwise, we would have put out a whole vision document. That is what we were hoping to do. But somehow in the last month or so, everybody's mind space and energies and time has got a bit, distracted, on the health front. But that is something we will do in quick time and put this so-called new design and new thing out there for everybody. But to more simply answer your question, I think Jaideep has given you a very good answer. I just want to overlay the sentence like directionally, that is the way we want to move forward. Okay? But we don't want to give up where our strengths are. We also don't want to give up our ability to sort of scale up and maintain leadership where in the so-called businesses where we already have a premier position and which are also giving us very decent ROAs.
Sure, thanks. That was helpful. Yeah. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jai Mundra from BNP Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I said thanks for the opportunity. So I wanted to check first thing in the recovery upgrade. Is there any lumpy corporate account which got downgraded and upgraded upon restructuring? And hence, is that understanding right? Because
No, Jay, we've not had any COVID-related restructuring upgrade. We've had an old NPA which got upgraded because of change in management control.
Sure, sir. And if you have the quantum handy, sir, in my question.
Yeah, nothing lumpy, but yeah, nothing lumpy.
Sure. And the second, sir, is on MFI. Now, if you can, now you had said in your opening comment that in the 4 states you have been kind of a virtually stopped disbursement. So if you can share the PAR book for entire MFI as of now, and maybe the growth outlook that you have in the entire MFI space.
Yeah, so the PAR book 30 plus in the MFI is about 7%. And from a growth perspective, yeah. And from a growth perspective, if you look at it, we are basically, as of now, as I said, cautious. We are not still disbursing in the 4 states. In the others, we are, but with the pandemic, which has suddenly started raising up again, I think the focus is shifted back to collections. But existing customer disbursals continue to happen. In any case, this quarter is usually a weak quarter for MFI.
Right. Okay. And the last question is, sir, now as we conclude FY21, I think the entire impact of first wave is there in the numbers. If I were to just look around, I mean, if I were to just calculate the slippages for the entire retail book, would be around 7% something, and you add 1.5% of restructuring, which is 8-9% kind of a stress go through for the first wave. Now, early times, but still, would you hazard a guess that, howsoever serious or severe may be the second wave, but the impact should be lower than the first wave, at least for the retail portfolio, or how would you think the second wave versus first wave impact?
Yeah, so if you see, when I was speaking, I was trying to say the same thing, that there are 2 things which we've done. One is that the existing portfolio has become far more resilient and the credit quality has gone up, partly because the weaker segments have gone out and also because the entire new acquisition which has come in is performing much better and is holding up, whether it be the cards business space or the loan space, retail loan space or the microfinance space. And the same, even today as we speak, when we saw signs of the second wave coming in, we further tightened the acquisition filters. So the other thing I think we need to keep in mind is that when the lockdowns happened in, let's say, end March, the first 1 or 2 months everyone was taken by a little bit of a surprise, and therefore then one put in one strategies and therefore got into the act. But now I think the operating manuals and the processes are fairly well laid out. You know when a lockdown happens in a particular place, what is to be done, what operating procedures are to be put in place. So we are far better prepared to be able to handle this. So if you keep this in mind, definitely the second wave impact should be much lower. And also one needs to be at least hopeful that the second wave duration will be much smaller because of the increased vaccination rates which are supposed to be happening right now as we speak.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. I will come back in this.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rakesh Kumar from Systematic Group. Please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me, sir?
Very clearly. Please go ahead.
Okay. So my question is pertaining to the wholesale book. So if I see there is a yield of sharp change in the yield what we have gone through around 7.6%, And considering the funding cost and considering that we have 1.85% gross NPA and 93 bips net NPA number, so close to 100 bips now. Number of credit costs is there as well. So, like, how much is the ROA that we generate on this wholesale book? And which is, I think, dragging, overall performance for the bank. So if you can, clarify on this.
So Rajesh, so we are in a transitioning mode on wholesale. So naturally, when you shrink the business, the idea is to kind of first de-risk the business. Once at the current income generating levels with our cost of funds coming down, we are quite confident that once the normalization of provisioning happens, which should pretty much happen unless there is something very extraordinary happening next year, we should start getting into making reasonable ROA. It's not going to be anywhere close to what one would make in retail, given the profile of customers that we will want to deal with. But it's not only to look at a standalone business of ROA for the wholesale book. One, it gives you size and scale. Second, it gives you a presence. Third, it gives you an opportunity to cross-sell SME, commercial banking, retail, salary accounts, etc. So you can't look at that business in isolation purely from an ROA standpoint. Having said that, I think we will want to do low risk, medium return kind of business in that with granular structure. I think we will, not want to obviously go back to a bulky structure which hurt us in fiscal 20.
Okay. And sir, like in the credit card business, what is the delinquency rate that we have in, Bajaj and non-Bajaj originated book? If you can tell us.
Yeah, typically the difference is between 25 to 30 basis points on an average.
25 to 30 basis points. And this is for,
that book is better by about 25 to 30 basis points. So not much difference.
Not much. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manish Shukla from Citigroup. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening and thank you for the opportunity. On microfinance, did I hear you right that you restricted about 280 crores?
No. Microfinance, 280 crores which we spoke about on the business loan side.
Okay, sorry. Okay, my bad. Yeah, my bad then. The other question is, what is the average duration of the MFI book pre-COVID and post-COVID?
About 18 months.
Not much of a change pre and post.
Not much of a change. See, typically we do either 18-month loans or we do 24-month loans.
Okay, all right. And in terms of the collection model, is the frequency of collection changing or how are you thinking about it?
Predominantly our collection model is on a monthly collection model and that continues. There is a small portfolio which is on a fortnightly basis but largely monthly.
Okay. And to an earlier question, Mr. Ahuja answered that unsecured might decline as much as 8 to 10% over the next couple of years. Just thinking, how do you think of it in terms of a blended ROA for the bank? Because the yield differential between secured and unsecured would at least be 500 basis points, if not more. So what does it do to your ROA aspirations?
No, so Manish, we are also talking about products which are not like the prime mortgage products. We're talking about affordable, we're talking about gold, and these are, broadly, I would imagine, in the range of, let's say, 9.5 to 12% range kind of a book. And I think what will happen is that the amount of wholesale banking pure asset growth will be lower because as Mr. Ahuja said, that will grow in, let's say, high single digits. So that, and we have some very low yielding. So first of all, we are carrying exceedingly high liquidity today, and that has been the case for the last 12-18 months. That should unwind itself. We also have, in addition to excess liquidity, we also have wholesale book which is deployed for liquidity purposes in terms of advances. So as we right size some of these businesses, I don't think the ROA impact will be dramatic. We will continue to, obviously from where we are, we need to go a long way up.
Okay. The last question, I mean, a couple of times normalized credit cost was mentioned. Given the book mix which you think you will get to, what you think that number would be and how long before you get there?
Manish, I think it's a totally evolving situation. So I guess, we should kind of talk.
They'll keep coming down.
Yeah, directionally, obviously.
Directionally, where we are is at the peak level, according to me. Yeah.
No, so is FY22 a normalized credit cost year or unlikely is the question? Let me rephrase myself.
No. Because there is a first quarter impact, that is linked to what has happened. Yeah.
Fair point. Okay.
We all know that. I mean, whatever books we are carrying right now, yeah. Now even say in the card provision, we have taken 70%, 30% provisioning we have to take the next quarter. So that credit cost still has to be taken. Similarly on the other business, only on the corporate side, I think we are at the more or less BAU level. Again, between some slippage and some recoveries, that may even out. So it may not be material at all. But on the retail side, there is still, like Harjeet also clarified very clearly, that the first half we still have to watch. The second half certainly will reflect much lower credit costs.
Understood. Thank you. Those were my questions.
First half will be very difficult to say at this stage, It will be lower, but how much lower you cannot say.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Saurabh from JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Sir, two questions. One is, what will be the loss in the card portfolio for fiscal 21? And the second is on the savings deposit rate. Your savings rate and your term deposit rates are very close to each other. So, when do you think you can start rationalizing this rate?
The credit cost in the card book is about 10.35% for this year.
Okay. And Harjeet, in Q4 as well, this would have been a similar number, or?
I'm talking about the full year. So it was obviously the first 2 quarters of the year did not have anything. It's largely come in the Q3 and Q4.
Okay. And as you normalize by H2, you would expect to come back to that 4.5-5% ROA here?
5.5% by H2.
This is a 5% credit loss, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, 5.5%. That's what I said. The credit cost is what the normal run rates are.
Okay. Thanks. And on the deposit rate?
So on the deposit rates, we obviously continue to rationalize the rates. We have materially reduced the rates at the bulk end of the bucket. So we have an inverted curve there. We want to continue to encourage granular retail deposits so that we get customers into the bank and then of course cross-sell both assets and other fee products. So I guess that strategy will continue. But at the same time, clearly both directionally will keep coming down over the next 2 to 3 quarters at least.
So just one follow-up on slide 39 on the market share. So your spent market share is 5%, your advances market share is 11%. Why is that on the card book business?
So if you look at our advances, we've always followed a strategy of doing both, spend-linked loans and some of out-of-limit loans, etc., on our card base. Objective being to try and maximize on our earning book, and therefore you see this correlation where the spend, the advances market share will always be higher. We, along with 1 or 2 market-leading players, do have a higher, let's say, advances per customer, which we run with because of the strategy we just mentioned.
Okay, so this is basically the EMI loans, right?
That is right. That is correct. That is correct.
And what will be the mix between the revolves and the loans? I mean,
So the revolve rate, if you look at it on slide 40.
Okay.
Yeah, you will see the book difference.
Got it. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Adarsh Parastodia from CLSA. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I had a question on the comment that you made on the unsecured book, right? I believe it's cards and MFI. They were core portfolios, and the share has accreted over the last 4-5 years. So just wanted to understand, when you say the share drops to 33% in FY21, over a time period it will drop by 5 to 10 percentage points. Is that correct? This 33% share of cards.
So please understand that we do run some other unsecured businesses as well.
Okay.
Partly in the MSME side, we did run some on the business loan side. We had a very small personal loan book as well. So those are the businesses which are not going to grow at all. In fact, a lot of them have been stopped. And therefore, on the other side, the secured businesses will start growing much faster. Because when we start doing things like mortgages, the tenors are long and the book stays longer, and therefore the growth in the book is that much more. And that is how the mix will change.
So these comments have nothing to do with how we look at on a forward-looking basis the cards or the MFI portfolio. They still remain as core entities.
Yeah. As we said that we will continue to grow in these businesses, and our market share will be either maintained or grown.
Yeah, so let me step in here. I think it's been misunderstood. You know, if you take the bank as a whole, there is a certain percentage of unsecured. That has several components, two of which are cards and MFI. And then there are 2-3 other components coming from the retail part. And there is some component coming from the wholesale part also. Yeah. There are many times where you, even on the wholesale side, you do unsecured for certain names. You know, when you want an entry into a company, initially for few months you stay unsecured before they bring you into the consortium and things like that. Or you may do short-term lending to public sector companies which are, you know, usually unsecured. So there are many components to unsecured. Overall, the proportion of unsecured for the bank as a whole, the comment I made was in that context, that shall come down. And within that category, we are going to directionally bring down wholesale unsecured and these 2-3 components of retail unsecured, which Harjeet just clarified. But as far as cards and MFI are concerned, these are our pockets of strength. These are our, you know, businesses where we have strong competitive positioning, and these definitely are our growth businesses also. So there will be a rebalancing of the portfolio from that point of view, overall leading to a reduction in overall unsecured versus the total. Does that clarify?
Partially, because I would still believe that cards and MFI is 33% of the portfolio and they remain growth portfolios. So difficult to, you know, unless you tell me that cards and MFI are not going to grow or some parts become defocus areas. Mathematically, I find it difficult to add up to the fact that, you know, because this 33 is a very large number and it's specific to us and obviously the strength areas. So I don't see how we get a very, because or if you can broadly tell me out of, like, say the book, right, 33 as I said is cards and MFI, what percentage would be of the portfolio would be other unsecured, right, be it sitting in corporate, be it sitting in retail X cards. So 33 is cards and MFI unsecured, which is clearly growth focus areas. Yeah. The ballpark number is good enough.
No, I can answer that question. So there is a significant portion sitting in wholesale, okay, right now.
Okay.
And that is something that will certainly be de-emphasized. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and has been de-emphasized already.
Yeah.
So you will see that number pair off. I think easily a 5% overall reduction on the balance sheet will come from there.
Okay.
Without touching card growth. Yeah. So okay. That takes care of most of what I said. I right now, and on the retail side, 3% is what Harjeet was talking about the piece that we don't like.
Yeah.
So
Got it.
a 4 or 5 there and a 2.5, 3 here is about 6-7%, and that's all I was talking about.
Got it. Okay, so you say that it's got it. Now that part is something that comes off very sharply because either you've stopped or you are going to let that business run off very soon.
Correct.
Got it. No, this is fair. Thank you. Thanks for clarification.
Yeah, also keep in mind that, the last 1.5 years, business loans, which was our secured engine, because of the economic conditions, almost 1.5, 2 years, has not been growing very aggressively. And that's been a conscious strategy. But now when home loan comes in, which is largely to the salaried segment, that is the segment which will therefore grow fast, and therefore will be able to fill in that secured gap, which was to some extent in the last 1.5 years, growth was missing.
Yeah, Arjit, the only point that is that with our cost of fund differential versus a lot of peers, right? And the point was raised in one of the last questions. Barring this 33% book, which is cards and MFI, where blended yields would be 18-20%. Rest is the migration is so sharp towards secured assets, and obviously from a credit side, it's okay. It's good, but I don't know what gives you an advantage to be in those businesses per se, right? Like why, some of the low yielding businesses really require presence of low cost of funds. Otherwise, it makes very little sense to do those businesses. So I'm just trying to understand that then the 33% is only the profitable part. The rest actually will become, it was low ROA and it will become even lower ROA, right? In a normalized business case.
Yeah, no. So understand that when we talk of housing, what housing are we talking about, right? The reason we got into housing at this stage is, one, we've defined the segment which we are getting. So we are not getting in the 7% interest rate housing. The second is that we have roughly about 150, 160 small town branches is where this housing is going to come from. So we are talking about very granular level of housing where interest rates today also run in the 9.5, 10.5, 11% kind of range. That is the housing which we will build, and the reason we are building that and where we have an edge is the fact that we have a distribution. There are not too many large banks which play. There are few HFCs which play there, and that is the competition which we will be faced with. So there is a space which we believe we can make an entry into, and there is a right to win which we see there. We are not therefore talking about getting into the bigger cities, the top 30 cities, and therefore operating at the, let's say, 1 crore, 70 lakhs or 2 crore housing levels at 7%. That is not where we are getting it.
And also we have about 50 basis points room on the cost.
Yeah.
And I think one more point I want to make is that given the trajectory of the profile of the deposit franchise, the way it is turning out, easily within this coming next few months, we have the potential of reducing cost of funds by another 40 to 50 basis points easily. So we've reduced by 100 basis points, in this last 10, 11 months. And I think there is easily, and as we have been dropping rates, we have been seeing actually the deposit accretion on the lower granular retail side not only not be negatively impacted, on the contrary, as you can see in all our ratios, the flow has been even stronger. So we do believe that there is continued scope to keep bringing them down quite immediately actually, and not in any way decelerate the growth of the granular deposit base. So the cost of funds gap is getting bridged, and I believe very strongly that in the next few months you will see, that getting bridged some more. And, also we are managing the credit cost side much more tightly. So ultimately, our entire, this thing is becoming more competitive from that standpoint. And, we spend a lot of time talking about our digital platforms and those aspects of our business, which also bring down acquisition costs in other ways. And there we do play successfully already. And that is another area of significant competitive strength and ramp up for the bank. So you have to take it all in totality in terms of what we are saying.
Got it. This is helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of MB Mahesh from Kotak Securities. Please go ahead.
Jaideep, a question for you. In the initial part, you had indicated that the overall slippages was about 1,300 crores. And Harjeet mentioned that the total provisions made on the card book was about 10.5%. That itself translates to about 1,200 crores. If I look at your slide on the net NPAs on the card book, it shows that there is another 250 crores of provisions which needs to be made. How do you reconcile these numbers?
Sorry, Ramesh, you have to repeat that.
Okay, I'll just give you. See, Jaideep had indicated that the total slippages on the card book for the year was 1,300 crores. And Harjeet mentioned that the card book provisions made was about 10.5%. 10.5% translates to about 1,200 crores.
No, it's 11. And it's about 1,100 crores. Yeah, go ahead, but yeah. That's the difference.
1,100, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, because if I look at the slide on the gross and net NPAs, there is 250 crores of pending provisions in that book. Is this reconciliation correct?
Yeah, that's the net NPA provision, correct. On card.
Okay, perfect. That's number one. Second one, in Exhibit 44, can you just explain what does this chart mean on the top? The 6 months 30 plus comparison with the industry. I assume that you're talking about in March 20, the loans, the cards originated on that period. 6 months later, your NPAs in that book was 6%, is it?
Yes, it's not NPA.
30 plus.
Origination in that period measured for 30 plus 6 months later, both for industry and for us.
So in September 2020, the origination which you made in March 2020, it showed a book of 6%.
Sorry, which one are you saying?
The same slide. I'm just trying to.
Yes. Yes, because you had a moratorium in which there was no aging happening. And also what happened was that there were cards towards the later end of where the application had come in, which we sourced towards the later end of March and a little bit in April, which was a spillover. They immediately went into a lockdown situation, and therefore you saw a little bit of a spike. And that is why the 2 months preceding that, if you see, you almost see 6 months 30 plus. So you need to be able to even it out.
Okay. And just one clarification on this. One would have thought that the incremental card origination would almost have a much lower delinquencies than what has been reported even in the previous years.
It has. You have to understand that when you do a 6 months 30 plus, okay, for a card which originated and straight away got into a lockdown situation, you will, even if a few cards go up, that percentage looks very high. That is the reason why this is happening. Otherwise, if you look at it, it would have never come down. Most of the card sourcing have started happening later. And then you see this curve balancing back again.
Okay, sorry. Okay, this is useful. And this slide 42, you are still comparing it with March 2020 numbers, is it? When you're looking at the 90 plus indexed delinquency rate?
So delinquency?
No, when you're seeing this, the shaded portion, with what should I see this number now?
No. So delinquent, this is basically saying is that each shade on an app, if you compare that shaded, that segment's delinquency at any given point of time to the average delinquency, then how does it perform? So for example, salaried, if my average, let's say is 100, then salaried would be 94 basis points and self-employed would be 114 basis points. That's how to read it.
So when you say source is CIBIL of March 2020, why would you do that?
No, that is a typo. That is not applicable here.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Okay, sure. And one last question.
Purely internal data.
Perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to just check that. Sorry, one last question. What was the write-off that you experienced in the unsecured wholesale book?
The unsecured wholesale book, not much. Nothing material this quarter. 20-30 crores maybe.
Okay. And can we assume that the profitability that you have now shown in the wholesale book can be extrapolated to the trend?
Sorry, what's the question?
No, we couldn't hear you.
If I look at the segmental data on profitability across segments, corporate book has turned profitable this quarter. Just wanted to check, should we now assume that we have reached a point where this should be the base run rate in which we are running?
I would say perhaps better, because we are expecting some old recoveries to happen also now shortly.
There is some recovery noise here, but on an average, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot.
किसी का background में
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Hiten Jain from Invesco Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Now I have one question. So there has been a good growth on core fee income, both year-on-year and sequential. If I just look at the drivers, it looks like it has come from trade and others. So that used to be around 30-40 crores at a quarterly run rate, but this quarter it is at around 140 crores. So what has exactly happened here?
No. There is a 60-70 crore recovery from a written-off account in wholesale. In addition to all the recovery and the upgrades that we discussed earlier in the call, when we recover from written-off accounts, it shows up as revenue. So there is a 60-70 crore element there.
Okay, even if I was to exclude that, then still the number is kind of doubled from a normal quarterly run rate. So is it? I don't know what it is. Fee income. What drove this growth?
Ladies and gentlemen, requesting you all to please stay online while we reconnect the management back to the conference. Requesting you all to please stay connected. Thank you. Requesting all the participants to please stay online while we reconnect the management back to the conference. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for patiently holding the line. We have the management reconnected to the call.
Hello.
Sir, we have the question from the line of Mr. Hiten Jain from Invesco Mutual Fund.
Yeah. So that question was that this 40 crore has become 140 odd crores in trade and others. I think even if I was to exclude the 70 crores of one-off, which could be a recovery from return of account, still that number is double. So is there anything more to it in terms of one-off?
No, then we've had a little bit above trend granular recoveries from all other retail, because obviously you are having a slightly higher base of return of accounts given what's happened in the last 6 months.
Okay, so it's largely recoveries from return of account. Okay.
FX business is trending above trend. Trade is on similar lines. I mean, the usual bump up of Q4, nothing out of the ordinary.
Understood. All right. Thank you for that. Thanks. That's it from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shizwan from Point72. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. Just a quick question on the collection efficiency. I think for MFI and cards, we have done pretty well March quarter, I think 97, 100% level. Do you mind give us some color on how is it doing in the month of April?
Yeah, so in the month of April, the lockdowns typically started only from the middle of the month. So for the last 15 days, we've seen a drop by about 3%, 2 to 3%. So not material, but one has to see how this situation plays out in the coming months.
Got it. Thanks. So 2 to 3 percentage point drop. That's similar for MFI and cards as well, right?
That is correct.
Got it. Understand. Just now, I think you were commenting that credit cost, we actually already saw the peak this quarter, and going forward, the first half although still elevated, but could be lower, right? Just wondering whether you can provide more color on what is it driven by. Is it because this quarter we have the accelerated provision to top up the coverage on unsecured, and going forward that will not happen, or is going to be driven by slippage coming down faster from the current level? Thanks.
Yeah, so the way it happens is that there was, post the moratorium, there was a certain bulging of the delinquency buckets which was there. And with every subsequent quarter, either they get resolved or they flow into NPA, and then in cards, for example, they get written off. So the last portion of that is something which will flow in the next quarter, but majority of it is already done. And post which the regular run rates come in, and therefore the slippage also comes down, and hence your credit cost starts coming down.
Okay, got it. So slippage likely to come down from current level as well in first half, right?
That is correct.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question for today. We now conclude the Q&A session.
Sorry, can you give us a minute?
We need a minute.
Yes, sir, you may please go ahead.
Yeah, so to the participants, I just also wanted to clarify on the provision coverage ratio. As slippages come down over the next year and we start continuing to provide on our current book basis policy, we automatically should expect PCR to materially improve over the next 9 to 12 months in the range of 7 to 10%. So just wanted to clarify that in case there was some misunderstanding on that question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was the last comment. Yeah.
Thank you. So can we conclude now?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much for everyone to be attending the call. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of RBL Bank, we thank you for joining us. You may now disconnect your line.